And honestly, I never know how to start these. Reverend Lisa says, "Welcome, beloveds." It's not a phrase that I would use in this context. Therefore, I just usually say, "Welcome to another reading from the Science of Mind Daily Guides, courtesy of Creative Life Spiritual Center and taken from the Science of Mind magazine." Hey, I'm an engineer, so these things are what they are. Today, our writer's talking about bold love. I'm going to read it through and then I'll come back. I'll make some observations. I am going to make a couple on the way because they're kind of relevant. I hope you're having a good week. It's not quite the middle of the week. Well, depending where you are in the world. In the Western world, it's not quite the middle of the week. If you are in lots of Arab countries, it would be the middle of the week, and I'm not quite sure what it is in various others. But anyway, there we are. Title of today's reading is Bold Love. Bold Love. How about that? Love is not an emotion, it's a promise. This came from something with which I am very familiar. I didn't know about this quote, obviously, because it's actually from a TV series, a British TV series that's called Doctor Who. I'm sure some of you have heard of it. As I've mentioned on quite a few occasions, I am a big fan, and always have been, as far back as I can remember, of science fantasy and science fiction. And this is kind of a bit of both. It's about a doctor, he's called a Time Lord. And the Time Lords they're kind of immortal because as they grow older, every so often, they will just reincarnate as a different character. It's kind of the same person, but it isn't. And most of the time it's been males. Occasionally it's been females. And this person from its quoted, Doctor Who Peter Capaldi, Death in Heaven, it's a Doctor Who series. He was the 12th Doctor. So in other words, he was the 12th incarnation of this Doctor. Not a medical doctor, but more like a doctor of philosophy, if you like, or just the Doctor. And he travels through space and time in something that looks like an old British police box. And if you've never seen one of those, Google it. It's not very big, but the thing unique about it is that it is called dimensionally unequal, which means it's much bigger on the inside than on the outside. So on the outside, it's maybe like a couple of meters. It's a rectangular box and it's a couple of meters, well, say like 7 feet by 7 feet, maybe a bit bigger. But on the inside, it's huge. It will be like 3 or 4 times that, 5 times that. So it's pretty big. But it's really a cool series. You can find it on TV here in the US. I know Reverend Lisa is a fan of Doctor Who. So, and as I said, I've been watching it since I was a kid. So it's been around a long time, as you can probably tell. Peter Capaldi, he's actually a Scottish actor who played this. Love is not an emotion, it's a promise. Oh, who knows? Maybe sometimes they'll actually quote from Discworld, which is another series, book series this time, that Reverend Lisa and I both like a lot. Ernest Holmes in 10 Ideas That Make a Difference on page 53, paragraph 1 says, life is not only where we are, it is what we are. It is in as well as around us, and its whole impulsion is love. The universe does the rest on the shoulders of love. Love is the real lodestone of life. In other words, love is the basis for everything. Or if you want to put it another way, that love is the energy that drives the universe, that drives everything that exists. And this is from Reverend Ramont. He says, the Greeks have many words to identify varying expressions of love, from agape, unconditional love, to mania, obsessive love. We overly simplify love to the point where, in many ways, we forget what it actually is, and more importantly, what it can be. especially when we embody and express it authentically and boldly. Love is the divine. The divine is love. All that is true of the divine must be true of love. As Holmes said, whatever is true of the divine is true of you, which means what is true of love is also true of you. When Holmes uses the word lodestone, he refers to naturally occurring magnets. Love attracts. Love attracts forgiveness. It attracts compassion, also empathy and wonder. It also attracts joy, comfort, nurturing, and conviction. When loving someone or something is rooted in lack and scarcity, then love repels, opposes, and is expressed as jealousy, manipulation, and oppression. Bold love requires us to do the deeply introspective work that uncovers our fears and our insecurities. Only in doing this work can we truly align with the power of love, the power with which we evolve and create the world that we envision. Now, I ask us, are you willing to love so powerfully that you release any attachments to old systems and paradigms and expressions of the collective consciousness? Are you willing to love without limits or conditions in such a way that the mere thought of you reminds others that they too are loved, and are the beloved, incarnating itself as all that is? Love as the truth heals. So no prizes for guessing what the message is. It's to encourage us to begin to love ourselves and others. You know, I worked with a client earlier today. We used to call them patients. Now we call them clients. We're allowed to call them patients. I worked with the client using emotional freedom technique. And this is not unique to this particular client. It's happened a bunch of times. Part of the expression that we teach people in emotional freedom technique is called, it's an exercise tapping on the side of our wrist, and it's to reverse, actually, psychological reversal. But part of that is a phrase that says, you state what the issue is, and then you say, despite all of that, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Well, I always ask my clients, can you truly say that? And not infrequently, people will say, in all honesty, no, I can't say I love and accept myself. And then I say, well, what can you say? Can you say I'm open to loving and accepting myself? And most of them can accept that. They can use that. So we use that phrase instead of I love and accept myself. But guess what? When that happens, I usually give my clients a little exercise in self-love. And it's the simple one, the one that we've talked about before, which is to stand in front of a mirror, look yourself in the eyes and say, I love you, I love you, I love you. And do this, if you can, 2 or 3 times a day and see what happens. So this particular client, guess what? She got the exercise of doing that. So when I see her next week, I will be trying to find out how it went. The whole point is that whatever anybody says, and Reverend Jesse pointed this out, as human beings in this plane of existence, it's not physically possible to practice unconditional love. You know, he even said, religious and spiritual leaders will tell you that you should be practicing unconditional love, but it's not possible because everything in this level, at this level of existence, is based on some condition or other. It's got to be. Maybe the bodhisattvas, the enlightened ones, have got beyond this. I don't know. But anyway, according to me and according to Reverend Jesse and lots of other people, you can't practice unconditional love. But that doesn't mean to say that you can't come close to it. And you're coming close to it when you can love people in spite of something. So it is something that is really important. But we don't want people striving for the impossible. So somebody tells you next time, you should be loving unconditionally. You can't do that. It's just not humanly possible. Maybe when we, to quote Shakespeare, shuffle off this mortal coil, in other words, pass on to the next level of existence, maybe it will be possible. I don't know. But right now, the only love that exists at that level is the divine. Some people call it God, some people call it spirit. They all lots of different names for it. Why? Because it just continually gives of itself in order to keep bringing things into creation, to keep creation going, and it asks for nothing in return. And that's what unconditional love is. It's giving completely without any request, even to ourselves, for something in return. But going back to what I said before, yes, we're being encouraged to love others, but we're also being encouraged to love ourselves. I mean, it's just a part of the conditioning. And I completely changed the affirmation because A, it was too long, and B, I don't think you can really do it. So I changed the affirmation down to, today my presence invites others into their own grand expression of love. Today my presence invites others into their own grand expression of love. I apologize for the delay. I'll read it again. Today my presence invites others into their own grand expression of love. All right, that is my version of what was said. What was said was a lot longer. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but for me, it was just too long, and I don't think anybody would use it. So if you want to know what the original one was and you don't have a copy, either digital or paper of the Science of Mind magazine for this month, then hey, text me, email me, and I'll get it back to you. So that's all I got today. Why am I early? Because in the not too distant future, I will be jumping in a vehicle and dashing up to Conroe, which is the town just further north of us, attending a Meet the New Members session for our local Chamber of Commerce, Woodlands Chamber of Commerce, which, as it just happens, by numbers, is the biggest one in the whole Houston area. We got about 1,300 members. And today we welcome new members, invite them to give their first talk, which will be limited to a couple of minutes, and then we move on from there. So that is where I will be. And then guess what? When I come back, I come straight back to my computer and I get in a class on self-mastery. And I'm not teaching it, I'm actually a pupil in it. So that's my story. Please look after yourselves. And remember, love, when they say love begins at home, this is where it begins. It begins in this home, this body, and then it moves out from there. So the practice is first to love ourselves, and then we can go out and we can love other people. So until next time, namaste.